Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. And today we're focusing on network topology, device discovery, and I've invited Brian Kapp from UV Networks to give us a little bit of background on the history of UVexplorer and talking about the integration with PRTG. So just to get things kicked off here, again, for those of you who are on as an organizer, if you would, please follow the link we've provided to join as an attendee. That would be really helpful, just so there's no confusion on our side with the number of organizers. Again, sorry for the mix-up this morning with that. All right, and with that said, we'll get started. So just by way of introduction, my name is Greg Ross. I'm with the pre-sales team here at Paessler, and I've been with Paessler for over 3 years. And from my earliest days, I got to know Brian from UV Networks, and I knew right away that this was filling a need for our customers within the PRTG space, within network monitoring, providing an additional level of value as it pertains to device discovery and network topology. And again, I wanted to bring Brian on to talk in a little bit more detail about the history of UV Networks and kind of the genesis of UVexplorer. And we can talk about the different use cases and hopefully provide some additional value for those of you who are PRTG customers and those of you who may be UVexplorer customers, giving you an introduction to PRTG and how it can add additional value for you in terms of network visibility. And that's really one of the biggest things that comes up consistently for me in working with my customers, is that everyone is looking for better visibility into their environment, especially when it comes to network devices and seeing how things are tied together and how that affects the overall performance of their applications and services. So Brian, can you tell me a little bit, or tell all of us a little bit about the history of UV Networks and why you started developing UVexplorer and just some of the background that brought you into this space?
Sure. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, UV Networks is a US-based company that we started back in 2013. It seems crazy that's already 5 years old, but realistically, the company is a company based off of engineering efforts over the last 20 years. Our group has been involved in network management and network discovery since the late 90s. A number of us have been together doing, well, back in the early days, we were doing dynamic network configuration and VLAN management for some startup companies back in the late 90s. And one of the things that we realized when we wanted to jump into that space was, before you could do any effective network management tasks, you really needed to understand what the network looked like and how it was configured. And so we launched efforts to build technology that was focused on how do we quickly and accurately assess the configuration and topology of a network. With that, we've lived a very probably unique life in the network management space. We've gone through lots of different transitions, built a number of companies, and worked with many network management platforms. Back in the early days, we were building plugins for OpenView and Unicenter, and we realized that our technology had this big hurdle to get over when you placed a big management platform in front of it. And so we started looking for better ways to integrate our technology with different management strategies, and we started pulling it out, refining it, and through that process, we have been able to work with great partners. Some of our partners in the past include Visio. We built plugins for Visio 2000, 2002 in the network mapping space, and then from there, we worked with other asset management type of companies like Altiris in the network discovery and mapping. And we feel really fortunate that we can work with a very dynamic and creative product like PRTG that does a great job of digging in to the health and status of a network. But we felt like we could add some automated network intelligence and deep discovery by layering the UV network technology or the UVexplorer technology alongside the PRTG platform. And so, simply said, we started a few years ago, we started working with their APIs, their standard APIs, to build a connection between our two platforms. And that's where we are today, is just trying to refine the best way for us to share our knowledge about the devices on the network and how they're interconnected, and make it easy for our users to simply have an up-to-date, accurate, and detailed map inside of PRTG.
Thanks, Brian. What do you think are the most common use cases or challenges customers are looking to solve when they start using UVexplorer?
Well, there's a couple of different ideas. One, a lot of in the networking space, there's a lot of pressure on the compliance aspect of always knowing what's on your network and how it's connected. And from a compliance standpoint, having an ongoing scheduled discovery that's detailed enough to do, what's on my network, but also how is it connected and what kind of access could it potentially have to other resources on my network. That's a big, push from IT administrators. But also, a lot of people will come into an environment as a new employee or a new member on a team and really have no background on how the network was built or how they're going to improve the management or monitoring strategy on that network. So they'll use our discovery technology to really dig in and find what's out there and get an idea of how it's all put together. We have a current situation right now with a university that has to, one side of the university has been using our product for quite some time, for years, but they have to go to a whole new extension of that network, and they're pretty much blind, and they're taking our tools with them and going in to, assess and build maps of those in those scenarios, and then put together a strategy about how to monitor them. And lastly, one is to do an effective management strategy, you really do want to understand the dependencies of network resources upon each other, and maintaining that is challenging, to say the least, especially in these growing networks, and also the diverse networks that we have, not just wired, but wireless, virtual, and so forth. So keeping up to date on how the networks are changing. Also understanding how they're interdependent. I mean, obviously in a monitoring environment, the dependency of one resource on another can be challenging, and also, crazy when, one part of the network goes down and the whole side of the tree goes red. Assessing where that connection break is without tools like UVexplorer can be challenging and overwhelming at times. So those are typical use cases that people want to address immediately.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Well, I've gone ahead and made you presenter. So folks, we're going to switch gears here a little bit and step into a live demo of UVexplorer, and we'll take a look at the integration between UVexplorer and PRTG.
All right. One of the great benefits that we have of working with PRTG is the fact that most of our new customers or potential customers have a background already in how they monitor SNMP enabled devices. And I wanted to mention that up front. I'm going to go back to our getting started page. One of the first questions that most people ask about UVexplorer is, how does it discover the topology of a network? And the majority of topology information is gathered from their networking infrastructure through SNMP. It's the fastest and most efficient, and also alleviates the questions of, what can you do if I share with you some credentials on my network? Well, SNMP read credentials are pretty harmless per se. We don't need any deep, SSH root passwords to get into your network devices to be able to pull topology. Fortunately for us, if you give us an SNMP password, we can start from there. But that being said, with PRTG customers, they've already kind of tackled some of those challenges. Sometimes on new networks, that can be an interesting task, trying to figure out what has been configured on the network as far as SNMP access and as far as restrictions for what devices can talk to it and whether those community names have been enabled. But if you look here in UVexplorer, you'll see that we support SNMP, V1, V2, and V3. Those credentials can be configured, and we also support the idea that you can have multiple credentials across your infrastructure. So if you're not sure, you can always set up a discovery pass with 4 or 5 different SNMP credentials, and we'll keep asking the devices questions until they respond or don't respond, and we'll tag those devices with the credentials that actually work with them. The way we approach discovery is every discovery that we do, we capture as what we call a snapshot. If you ever looked into our files, basically a file system, you can look here and we say, here's all the discovery results that we've created. These are manual type of discoveries, but there's also scheduled discoveries with RAWs, what we call raw and roll-up type of discoveries. And we can talk about each one of those. But when we go through to set up a discovery, you simply give us a target. We give this a name, and you can tell us a little bit about how you want to discover your network. Ping sweep obviously is pretty common. You're going to give us an IP range of where you want us to go, and we'll basically stay within there. Along with that, you'll give us some credentials, and we'll go ahead and use those credentials to discover the network. And then you can also kind of shape the way you want to feel around your network, whether you want to include certain areas or exclude different things that maybe are a critical resource. But as simply as that, once the discovery is set up, you can begin to discover the network. We're not going to jump into that right now. I mean, we'll kind of set that off till later. But once this discovery is started, it will run for whatever time it needs to finish that discovery. We really do try to pride ourselves on the idea that we are one of the fastest, or if not the fastest, discovery options out there, depending on how deep in the technology you want to go. But we are very focused on determining the topology of the network, and we're going to talk to the devices in a way that we can gather that information. Once we're done with the discovery, we can look at a discovery result and just open it like a document. So you'll see here that as you open it up, you'll start seeing category lists here to the left that kind of detail the idea of what we found on the network. Things like core devices or SNMP devices that were able to talk to us, and we can give, we can find their IP, their MAC address, the OIDs that they report to us, and what vendor they came from. With this, if we're able to gather the information through SNMP, you'll start to automatically see topology layout about how these devices are put together. If you simply mouse over the links between these devices, you can see here this is our switched SNMP infrastructure. You'll see small pop-ups that kind of show us the links between these networking devices. Now, each one of these devices has specific information gathered about them. You can see here, like for example, on this Cisco device right here, if I double click on it, I can go in there and see all of its IP addresses, its interfaces, bridge ports, and what VLANs they're mapped to, the asset and inventory details about what their serial numbers are, what their connections are to other devices in kind of a tabular form here. You can see here the out port FA01, we're connected to another Cisco switch, VLAN configuration, and so forth. You'll even now notice out here to the side that during this discovery, we actually were able to pull the config from this device. And if I look into there, that's the running config for that device. And we can talk about how that's useful and actually a powerful feature of UVexplorer. The nice thing about the UVexplorer is this is all done for you. You give us the credentials of what, of the devices that we're trying to discover, and we'll build these topology models automatically. There's no hand-holding. We'll do our, we've spent, like I said, 20 years in this business and in trying to refine the best ways to discover technology, discover the interconnection between these devices and the interconnections between the different types of vendors. You can see here that we focus here on Cisco, we got Aruba, HP, you name it. We've been down those paths. And our technology is built on the idea that we do specific discovery models for individual types of vendors. We even have TP-Link here, Dell's, and so forth. Now, this is all well and good. You can see this is within the UVexplorer console. And it is, as I browse down through here, I can look at different, different types of layouts. You can see we can drag it around. You can zoom in on the on these. You can actually even start to move. There's different types of layouts that you can do. Obviously, you pop up this map right here. You can see radial, hierarchy. You can set up you can lay this out a little bit differently. But as you do this, you can also set it up so that if I don't like the layout of this, I can actually say I want to go to manual mode, and you can lay these things out any which way you would like. And this is actually just technology. The layout algorithms are there to help you organize your information and get a good picture. Because of our history, obviously we support different ways to export these views. You can export them to Lucidchart or to Visio for hard documentation, referring back to our notion of compliance. But we're here to talk a little bit about how we export this to PRTG. The key here is how do we push this information automatically to a monitoring type of environment. So I'm going to go ahead and take this map, and I'm going to set it up so I can create a new group inside of PRTG, and I'm going to add some ping sensors, and I'm also going to do some traffic sensors on these devices. And by doing that, I'm going to just hit export, and that makes a connection using the API, the credentials for the PRTG API. You can see it's going through right now and creating the sensors for those individual devices. And just that quickly, we've gone ahead and created a group inside of PRTG. So if I say go to group, you'll see here, if I go back to the top of the tree, I've got a couple different things. That new test map that I just created, you can see here that I've exported all of these devices, and I've already automatically configured sensors, and you can see that the polling engine is already starting to pick up reports on those sensors. So the pings are already reporting back, and these devices, as it goes further, you'll see it start to fill in. And one of the great things about our plugin with PRTG is that, where do I see the visual aspect of this? And you can see here at the top, there's the notion of a map. And just like that, I automatically have the layout that I saw over here in UVexplorer. I have published that map inside the PRTG platform. And you can see here by double clicking on these devices, I can drill into the asset and details inside of PRTG. I can see, let's see, there's my links and routes and VLANs, and everything is the same things that we were showing you in the UVexplorer console are automatically published to the PRTG platform. And what you can see here is you can actually see the status the status of these devices as they're reflected based on the PRTG polling engine. You can see here this blue right here is just waiting for actually for some of the status to report. Now, if I refresh the screen there, now you can kind of see the green status of these monitors reporting that these devices are up. We're still waiting for a few more to report. But as you mouse over on these maps, you'll see the flyout to show you all the different sensors that are on those devices. And those are the native sensors for PRTG. So essentially what UVexplorer has done is created native devices inside of PRTG, assigned their appropriate credentials, and given them and configured them with the sensors that we feel like would be appropriate to monitor the health and status of those devices. You can see here that we're going to refresh the screen one more time here, and we should start to see there now all those sensors have reported. Now you'll notice out here that we have a switch that's down. I was exporting this off of a previous discovery that I've taken that switch offline, and by clicking into this map, you can automatically see the status of that device. And again, this is not UVexplorer status. This is a UVexplorer map overlaid on a PRTG polling engine. So you can automatically see that. Now I'm going to go back up to the top of the tree, and I'm going to explain something that's a little bit different about. There's two different ways to look at maps inside of the PRTG platform. This map that I was just showing you is our UVexplorer plugin map. So this will look exactly like the UVexplorer map that you see over here in the UVexplorer client. However, what you can do is when you export from UVexplorer, if I say export to, I'm going to go ahead and create native map. What we're going to do here is I'm going to create a new group called test native group, and I'm just going to go ahead and just add ping sensors to this group. But I'm also going to create a topology map. And what this is going to do is it's not only going to create a group with new devices inside of PRTG, but it's also going to create a native PRTG map that can be customized and used as in a PRTG native dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and hit export here, and I'm going to go ahead and create those devices, and then I'm going to build the sensors, and then now you'll see here we can either go to the group, we can also just go to the map. And in that scenario, I'm going to go ahead and you'll see here that I have built a PRTG native map where we jumped right to the map, and then you can go into your map designer. You can customize this to your heart's content. You can make the icons bigger, smaller, rearrange it. You can change the icons. You can build other native components of the PRTG map builder, and all with the ease of knowing that this map and topology has already been built and can be maintained through UVexplorer. So that's one of the great integrations of UVexplorer with PRTG, is that you can build not only automatic maps inside the device groups, but you can also build native maps in the tree. And again, these are reporting directly off of the PRTG sensors. So you can click into that device, you'll go directly to that device in the ping. So we've automated the whole map building process, and we've built the connections automatically into PRTG. And there are lots of other options to do inside the PRTG map builder. You can also build in connections where I've done previously ones where I've laid out topology with connections between each device with their traffic sensors. So you can see here, this is a map designer that I built automatically with ours using the interface statistics monitors. So you can see that between these two switches, the two interfaces, how they've interconnected, and you can automatically see the traffic and the status of those interconnections. So you can see that here on this map. Again, all in with the goal of automating the connection and layout of all topology information within PRTG, but driven by a UVexplorer engine.
Hey, Brian, this is Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to take a breath for a moment and let everybody know if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the question section of GoToWebinar. And just for those of you who are relatively new to PRTG, or maybe you're familiar with UVexplorer, PRTG is a feature complete solution. So everything that Brian's been showing you so far from the PRTG side, the maps, all the sensors, everything that is there within PRTG is included out of the box. So we're not talking about any kind of add-ons or modules. So this UVexplorer integration is just building upon what's already there within PRTG. We've been talking about sensors too, and sensors are important for, Brian was pointing out, for status, for health, for performance metrics. And these are all dynamic links. So as we're looking at maps inside of PRTG, it's gonna follow from whatever you've done in UVexplorer. So those links will be dynamic based upon whatever metric or sensor you're using for that device. So obviously, if the device has to be up, so we got to be able to ping it. But then we can take it a step further and look at traffic metrics and update the status of these links. For example, that Dell switch is down right now. But we could take it even a step further and say if the traffic is above a certain rate, if the utilization on a given interface is above a certain rate, we can set a threshold, and that would change the link to match the status of that sensor. So if you wanted to be notified when the utilization on a given circuit is above a certain amount. So what Brian's showing here is the ability to drill into the channel and set those limits at the channel to change the state of that given sensor. And obviously today we can't go into all of the details within PRTG, but I do want to open it up to everyone to put in your questions into the GoToWebinar, and we can try to get to those. And I'll let Brian get back to it and just talk about what's involved with getting the integration in place, what the options are for getting things installed, and what you have to do to get started.
All right, great, thanks, Greg. Just from the perspective of what does it take to integrate the two technologies, there's a single install for UVexplorer that can be installed directly on the PRTG core server or on a remote probe. We do, for the integration to work correctly, we do need one installation on the PRTG core. That gives us an extra service where we can publish the information that we export to the core server directly within the UI of the PRTG core server. But to get the two to talk to each other is pretty simple. Along with the credentials that we show here in the SMP world, down at the bottom here, we have this notion of a PRTG credential, and you can actually set it up to just target a PRTG server, and then you give us what the pass hash. Now, sometimes this is a little bit confusing because people think this is their PRTG login. It's not. There's a username and a pass hash that we use, and once you have that in place, you can again, like, test it here to see that we can actually make a connection, and that's the communication that we use to talk to PRTG. And we can, I can show you exactly where that is on the interface. If you look at their setup with account settings, my account, there's this notion of there's a password here, but there's also a pass hash. Once you have that pass hash connected with UVexplorer, you can basically get the two environments to talk to each other. Like I said, we install a listening service on the PRTG server so we can publish information directly to PRTG. But you can also use, in your discovery settings, you can connect these two. You can see here I can import IP addresses from PRTG. So if you have an existing PRTG install and you want to accelerate your discovery of PRTG assets within UVexplorer, you can make that connection and then just import the IP addresses directly into our discovery engine, and we'll start with those devices that you already have configured and running within PRTG to make that a little bit more seamless. And as we go down the path, one of the challenges is everything you've seen here is that you say, well, okay, I get it, I discover it, and then I publish it and push it over to PRTG. Well, is there any way that we could automate that? And the answer is yes. Inside of UVexplorer, you can set up these scheduled discoveries, and a scheduled discovery can be set up with the discovery scope, but then at the end here we also say, please export the information that you found directly to PRTG. And it's not just one set of devices. You can actually export multiple maps. You can see here I have a list of all these maps and groups that I've created inside of UVexplorer. I can pick and choose that at the end of a discovery I can export branch A, custom map 1, extreme, and all these will send over those devices directly to PRTG. And essentially what you can do is configure UVexplorer as a discovery agent for PRTG. Many of our customers that use PRTG as their monitoring platform will configure UVexplorer as an external discovery agent and just publish all the intelligence of these devices and the topology directly into PRTG. And once that's published, as you can see here, I can be over in the PRTG platform and go to the device tree. I can look at my maps. I can see their status automatically. I can drill into those devices and see all the details and connectivity that I would inside of UVexplorer, and without actually having to go to the UVexplorer console. So I automatically get a web-based consolidated view of everything that UVexplorer has to share as far as deep discovery and topology. So,
hey, Brian. Quick question. I believe this is a yes, and I already told the attendee yes, but on Ubiquiti devices, I know HP and Aruba you've done a lot of work with. Have you worked with Ubiquiti specifically?
That's yes, and we are still working with them because it's a different type of interface. Some Ubiquiti devices will report some minimal SMP data. So obviously we'll find the IP address, we'll find the MAC address, and the limited SMP data they'll be able to share. However, the majority of their management platform is shared through a different type of connection, and we have to, we're actually in the process of developing a native connection to a Ubiquiti device to pull the wireless information and wireless clients and so forth. That's one thing that you'll see inside of the UVexplorer platform, is that's why you see this growing list of credentials, right? So we've got SNMP, and we got Windows, and we got Telnet and SSH and VMware. I mean, these credentials will allow us to have access to those, and we are expanding for Ubiquiti. Right now, we don't have any, I mean, other than the SNMP support, that's what we have, but we are working on enhancing it to be more detailed in the Ubiquiti.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from folks? And Brian, I was hoping maybe you could talk a bit about your trial and a little bit more about how to get things started and what resources you have available. Okay.
The trial is really simple. I mean, you go to UVexplorer.com. Let's see. I mean, go to UVexplorer.com, and you'll see here there's different types. You can the product that we've been demoing today is UVexplorer Pro, and this gives you the connector to PRTG. You can download a trial, you know, in just a few minutes, and you'll get a link with a trial code, and you can be up and running in just a few minutes. We do have that set to 15-day trial. You can work with our team if you feel like you needed a longer trial or more details. But typically, you know, it's pretty simple to get up and running, but we are happy to schedule a discussion or a technical discussion, if it would assist any user on getting this up and running and configured for a particular environment, just so you feel successful with the product. But that's basically it. I mean, there's not much more than that. It's a pretty small install, not too disk intensive. So again, download and be up and running in just a few minutes.
Kind of like PRTG.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So that's one of the key features. Is like I said, we were building UVexplorer as an independent documentation type of product. We've been around network management platforms for a long time, and we knew the success that PRTG has had in the monitoring space, and we felt like this is a win-win for both of our products, that we can leverage the deep monitoring capabilities of PRTG. I mean, obviously that's an all-encompassing, challenging task in itself with the different network devices that are out there, and we're very focused on how can we give the most information about these devices, asset inventory and how they're connected, and by sharing that between the two platforms, I think users get the best of both worlds at a price point that is really significantly less than a lot of the competitors out there. We've seen the landscape of topology and asset discovery bundled with monitoring. We kind of know that space pretty well, and we feel very confident that this is a very cost-effective and very competitive, if not, top of the line products. If you evaluate these two products together with any other management platform out there.
Brian, a few more questions coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Could you show all devices connected on a particular VLAN?
Sure. So here at the bottom, there's different layouts of the different ways to view the network. One of the things is an IP scope, and you can see here that I have the subnets and also VLANs. These VLANs will show us every device that touches a particular VLAN. So now we don't actually show a map of this, but right now what you can do, this view right here just shows the detailed listings. If I go back to my devices, I can actually create a device group, and this device group says, device group VLAN 1, and I'm going to say, well, show me everything, all devices that are in. Let's see, VLAN 1. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, and you can actually do this and say, let's see, I'm going to hit OK, and you'll see all the devices be dynamically added to this list, and there's your map of everything in VLAN 1. And just that simply, you create, basically this is like a rules. You can do hosts, you can do IP range, categories, VLANs, devices with specific OIDs. You can set it up to have this dynamic group that can be built on the fly. And when I talk about dynamic groups, there's different types of groups. There's dynamic and static. Static means that you tell us exactly what devices you want to see grouped together, and we'll automatically draw the topology information behind it. Dynamic means that, hey, when we do a discovery set of devices, we will compute what devices actually should be there. So you can give us, again, like every device that says .uvnets.com. Every device that has a host name that says uvnets.com, we want to show that in this device group. But that's how you would approach a VLAN map.
Nice. I think you might have touched upon this earlier, but there's a question regarding seeing the port number on the map.
Mm-hmm.
If you hover over the icon, you can see the port number, but you'd like to see it on the map to publish to Lucidcharts in this
okay, so
example.
So if you look at your map settings, you can say draw the link labels, and they'll show up on the map right here. And the same thing goes for when you export to Visio or to Lucidchart. You could say include link labels, and so when I export that, I'm going to go ahead and create this Visio document. This is very much like Lucidchart, but you can see inside the document here. Sorry, let's zoom in here just a little bit. You can see that those link labels are there, Now, one of the things that's interesting, with Visio, because of our background here, we do these shape sheets that will tell you all the intelligent information about these devices, but also the same thing for the links. So you can see, even though we're drawing them FA01, FA3 on this, the shape sheet actually will show you the actual interface indexes that they're connected on and their names. So you can do this. And this also goes to Lucidchart if you want to publish it up there in Lucidchart.
Okay, great. Do you grab any CDP or LLDP information?
Yeah. So we pull as much information off the device as we can. So you can see here FDP, CDP. If there's, let's see, where's my Dells? I got there's spanning tree. Where's my? There we go. Some LLDP there. Like I said, we've been across the discovery landscape for a very long time. A lot of, interesting enough, the group that the standards group that actually created LLDP way back in the actually late 90s. I met with one of them and they told me directly that says, hey, LLDP will make your discovery technology, so much better and almost obsolete. And back then we were like, well, that's great, because I'd love a technology that we say, if I read that, I can connect devices every time, 100%. And, that was back in the 90s. And we're still doing discovery today, because what happens is there's lots of different citing information. There's lots of different ways to depict topology. And we take all that information and put it into a rules engine that computes topology. And so with that information, we can do a better job about how we display and show topology. However, one technology over another is not always a surefire way to get the topology right. I could give you a lesson, 100 different ways CDP and LLDP will mess you up. But but again, we read all that information, we publish it all. You can see it directly in our viewers. And we do use that to build the topology models. But yeah, we read everything we can to get that information out of the devices.
Okay. How about ACLs? So this was a question from Adrian, who's still in the call. I just want to make sure we touch on that
right now. So most of the time, ACLs are published through SSH, and the answer to can we pull a config to show you ACLs? Yes, as you can see directly here on these devices. This discovery I did run with that I can pull directly the full config right here, and you would see the ACLs here. We share this information directly through PRTG, so you can see it. But directly just pulling ACLs and separating them out as their own tab, we don't necessarily focus on that. But configs, yes, we pull that. One of the things that we do by setting up your discovery settings to include protocols like SSH or Telnet, and what you can do on the advanced set is say, well, capture the configs. Each time we run discovery, we can send you notification when the config changes. And if it was an ACL change, then obviously you'd see it right there in the config change to say, hey, this device changed, and here's the ACL difference. And it would be sent to you in an email, and those differences actually can be shown to you in our diff viewer. So the idea here is you can, in your configs, you can, over time, I know this one doesn't show this, but let's look at one that actually does, like this one. You can see, I can look at these devices and look at the configs. No, not this one. Let's see. Maybe I got these wrong. I'm looking at the wrong. You can see here over time how these configs have changed. If I sort these based on like my startup config, I can compare two configurations against each other. And let's look at this. and it'll show you the difference. Like for example, we were just testing some change notification. You can see that these differences here is that I added V3 authentication, and I also changed the SNMP server contact name. And that's one way to both read ACLs and visualize the differences between them. And I think Greg asked me earlier one time, what is one feature of UVexplorer that people probably don't know that much about? And that is that we do capture configs. In one of our past lives, we actually built not only a topology and visualizer as far as network discovery, but we also built a full configuration product, and we've kind of combined them in UVexplorer to say we do not only discovery, asset, and topology viewing, but we also pull configs and get notifications of config change.
And something PRTG customers ask for. So another additional feature that I think is important. Have you worked with Meraki devices?
Yes, Meraki. One of the things that you can do with Meraki is obviously a cloud-based management platform, and the way that works is you just set up not only you set up the special credential for the Meraki device. Obviously, they talk on a different port for SNMP. As you can see here, we give you the option about how you can talk 161, or I think it's 16100 or something like that. But you use that credential, and in your discovery settings, not only do you tell us to tell us what scope you want to talk to right here, but you can also put your cloud controller in here. Say it's 10.10. And that's your cloud controller. And in the process, it'll go out and add that. And the way to think about our discovery is, I like to think about it like Legos, right? We just pull all this information and put it into this big pot and create an answer and basically build a network topology that is comprehensive. So to take like a scan of your network, your local network with all of its physical devices and SNMP and IP addresses and so forth, and then add in a Meraki information that you pull out of your cloud controller, that just makes our discovery result more intelligent. Same thing goes for like for example, if you have a wireless LAN controller. While we're doing a discovery, if we don't talk to the LAN controller, we can see your access points out there with IP addresses and MAC addresses, and sometimes they'll talk to us a little less than MP. But if you really want us to be more detailed about it, we just need you to give us the credentials to talk to your LAN controller. Then we can go through the LAN controller and say, okay, what are your APs? What are their serial numbers? What are their configuration? And we can distribute that information across your topology model to make it look and feel the most accurate as possible. Same thing goes for IP phones. You know, again, we've been around the block. We kind of know there's a lot of different type of technologies out there. So the more you can get us to talk to key components of your network, the more intelligent the discovery will be. And Meraki is one of those things that we can help anybody that's having challenges with that. We can let us know, and we'll show you how to do it.
Well, I know we're coming up on top of the hour. There were a couple other questions. One that I think is important. Mike asked this earlier about, can we see the clients connected to monitored switches? I assume the answer is yes, and I think that's a function of the protocol.
Well, yes and no. So end node connectivity is not necessarily always based on a protocol. We use different forwarding type of technology. Like, everything has these databases of learning and forwarding. And so, yes, end node connectivity is the key. We're not just about infrastructure. We're end to end, port to port type of connectivity. And so, yeah, any end node that's connected, you can see that directly. I can show you. Let's go in and let's look at this one right here. Like this discovery results a little bit bigger, and you can see more directly that if I open up this map and look at all this, or all SNMP devices, you'll start to see the topology kind of blows out. But you'll end nodes. If you look at your links here, this is an end node right here. We can go all the way to the end of it. And one of the things that's interesting about our integration with PRTG is not only we understand that not everybody's interested in monitoring devices that are end node connections inside of PRTG. One of the things that we just barely added to our integration is the idea that I just want to create a map-only type of view. And what this will do, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Sorry. I'm going to go back to this one right here. I want to create a map-only view of this inside of PRTG. And what that does is I'm going to create a new group, but I'm going to just export the map only. And if we watch what this does, it doesn't create any devices inside of PRTG for this particular group. And if I go there, you'll see that it's empty. Basically, there's only a device group there. But if I go to the map here, you see all the devices that we had inside of PRTG. But you'll also see that they have status. But some have status and some don't. And essentially what this view provides you is that I can actually build views inside of PRTG that show you status of monitored switches, like these right here, like the catalyst and these different things. But I also have end nodes hanging off of these other side so that I can see out ether 0. I've got all these end nodes hanging here, but I'm not monitoring them. I'm not monitoring the printer. I'm not monitoring all these, phones and different things, but at least I know where they are. And that doesn't necessarily cause any kind of difficulty as far as loading down your PRTG server with unnecessary devices or monitoring platforms. But you can see automatically that we can publish any kind of map inside of the PRTG console.
Cool. All right. Maybe one or two more. Mark had a question about improving the exported topology, and I think this might touch upon the different layouts, hierarchical versus ring, and is that just kind of a challenge in dealing with different device sets?
Right. I mean, there's different ways you can modify the layout. You can change radiuses and distance and angles and things like that. But then also you can put this into any kind of mode that if I decide I want to select this group right here and I want to move it, you say, yeah, say yes. I can move it around. And once you start moving it around, we're just going to leave it the way, that you've designed it. So you can improve upon it, and then we'll just leave it the way you set it up once you've taken it to manual mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
And again, we have different layout modes that you can use, but essentially you can get it to a certain point and then take over the view.
Okay, great. Yeah, Mark, I believe you're still on. If you have a follow-up on that, or anybody else, if there's any other questions, I appreciate everybody hanging on. Hopefully this has been interesting, and most of you have stayed on, so that's great.
Yeah. And again, we'll try to look through these questions that are here and see if there's anything that we may have missed, and we can send out direct answers or more specific answers to some of the questions. Yeah, so just let everybody know on the webinar that that's something we can do as follow-up to what we've been able to demonstrate today, but also helping them as a future trial or install of UVexplorer and PRTG.
Absolutely. Yeah, so just a couple takeaways, folks. Brian showed the free trial on the UVexplorer site, for those of you who are new to that. For those of you who are new to PRTG, and we have a free trial as well. It's a 30-day unlimited free trial. You can reach out to the pre-sales team for any help or support you need during the trial. We can work with you directly, and even take a look at the UVexplorer integration as well. So please feel free to reach out to us at pre-sales and keep us in mind. With that, Brian, thank you again so much for
Anytime.
going through this. I'm always learning new things. I think I've done a few of these with you now, but always learning learning new things along the way. All right, guys, have a great day. Thank you.
Right.
Bye now.